have cases of these devices failing. So maybe because the one was being used so many times, so I don't know what it is, but going for ensure that the devices are working. There's no point having these devices, the battery is not working, the screen is not working, but the PVC cards cannot be read. Logistics items should not be kept until 1 week before. They should be prepared weeks before the election day, so that we can be sure that we are going to have. We are tired of these things, and that's why if INEC is serious to have credible elections, countable elections are worthy of the name they bear, then we should put all this into of results, and that would make it easier for us to be sure of the outcomes.
Okay, that is confidence building once again on INEC. Yakubu and his men will do something meaningful this very time around, so that we can have that confidence back on them. So quickly, before we go back to the newspapers this morning, let's give you rundown on the remaining part of the budget, so that the allowance for ad hoc workers, who will be more than 1 million people, is pegged at 23.7 billion naira, while 23 billion was set aside for election logistics expenses, which include the movement, deployment, and retrieval of men and in some bulletin and some edition of program talking about the newspaper review. Now, finally, ESA, Imo, Rivers get zero Hajj allocation paper. Okay, I'm still going on point. You have a strike. ACF to mediate in FG, ASU on peace. And then finally, from the Punch, on the below part of the front page, we have a cooking gas price jumps by 83% in 1 year, according to NBS report. Now let's quickly houses burnt in Lagos Tank. Ondo, Amoteku nabs human trafficker with 4 girls aboard Ghana trip. Tears as Kaduna train attack victim Chinelo Megalo is buried. Ransom for Dariye. Okay, reason for Dariye Nyame's pardon. Lim CSO Stakol presidency. Ogun ex-deputy governor arraigned over retirees CFO. FG can't consultations ongoing on Lekki Ikoyi toll redemption. Okay, according to Lagos government. Only ASU can determine strike suspension, says Ngige. IGP deploys more officers to southeast over attacks. Obasanjo backs call for state police as insecurity persists. Kaduna crash depleted NAV's capital assets laments. NLC, NUT, NOGE insists on LG autonomy. On the editorial, as you can find on point this morning, CBN should stamp out excessive bank charges. Obtain your PVC. SDP Kwara governorship aspirant advises supporters. 2023 Ogoni, most marginalized in Rivers, deserves governorship, says group. 2023 Osibajo's aspiration not about personal ambition, says APC group. PDP chairman not nomination forms. 2023 Olawepo has seen to declare for presidency May 3. 2023 INEC budgets 239 billion naira for pool materials presidential runoff. Electoral why I won't resign despite presidential ambition, according to Chris Ngige. Nigeria system a waste, says group. 2023 Katsina presidential panels regulation that I believe my colleague is going to answer to that in his to 30, which get full details of all of in the Punch newspaper this morning. Still on Punch this morning. NDLEA raids cannabis party, arrest 200 youths in Abuja. 15% levy. Freight forwarders, car dealers meet FG next week. Robbery attack. Elaro Poly denies rape allegation, imposes curfew. And on the cold crisis, still on the column, Rebs don't place more paramilitary entities under FG. Still on the column as well. Will 2023 truly change anything? We have US announces no interview visa renewals for Nigerian students. Okay, still on Punch. Hajj pilgrims may pay 2.5 million naira as Bayelsa, Imo, Rivers get zero allocation without interview, according to the embassy. And finally, from the Punch regarding domestic headlines, Ogoni cleanup may not be completed under Buhari, says FG. Now, on foreign headlines, you can find on Punch. Subsea cable, internet price to crash as Google plans 21% cost reduction. And finally, from the foreign, oil price rises as OPEC projects second. Carlo returned for Watford. Brentford's Onyeka out. West Ham wants 20 million Awoniyi to replace Antonio. Ogumbote relishes Remos 4-1 win against Dakada. Obo predicts tough Fury White match up. La Liga, Barca beat Real Sociedad 1-0, move to second spot. And of course, finally from the Punch this morning, 3 EPL clubs interested in Nigeria's Taiwo Awoniyi. And that is the headlines you can find this morning in the Punch newspaper, with so many interesting headlines this morning. So many of them that we can begin to talk on today, and there'll be no time to exhaust every one of them. Mr. West, is there any headline you feel you can just comment on quickly?
I want to ask. I want to make a few comments on the 100 million naira
APC
for yes. I did a small piece on one of the social media and on Facebook, and I asked, are we really sure we know what APC came to do for Nigeria and in Nigeria as an administration and as a party? Because this is a party that came with a lot of promises.
Yeah.
Those that voted for them came up with all kinds of expectations. I wasn't part of, and they are beginning to prove, those of us that doubted them correct, that they didn't have any good thing planned for Nigeria.
Yeah.
Let's look at a case. You are going to be if somebody is going to be a president for years, he's going to be earning 14 point something million per year. Times 4 years, he will be about 56 million. The vice president will be on 12 million for 4 years. That's 48 million.
Yeah.
And you're asking him to pay 100 million to get to that office. Wouldn't he see it as an investment? They have to recoup his money. Now, if somebody's going to earn 48 million naira in 4 years, why are you asking him to pay 100 million, 100 million to aspire? And it's not a aspiration that assures that he has won. So you collect 100 million for maybe, and then one person gets to win the election. You're putting pressure on the rest, because that is money invested and wasted in their minds. Now, let's also look at some other angle of this discourse. When somebody says to me that it is to weed out unserious persons to aspire to the position of president, financial capacity, the only consideration for who can become president of this country, if it is, then all our political parties have failed woefully, because emphasis is not on character, emphasis is not on precedence of what the person has achieved hitherto, emphasis is not on intellectual capacity to understand the ongoing cutting-edge developments in IT and all.
Yeah.
It also means that people are not placing value on people, men and women who are close to the grassroots. No wonder our politics has gone amiss. No wonder our political system is anything but corrupt, because we have placed the wrong emphasis on money.
Yeah.
So if I have the money, I qualify, even if the person is a thief, even if the person is a ritualist, if the person is somebody that fraudulently acquired certain academic qualifications, even if the person is a molester of people, 40 PD, 100 APC, I think they are.
Okay, we shall be talking this more when we go to the Parliament of Nigeria. We shall be discussing this in details, having a paper review this morning. So hold your people. And you are really driving into that already. But quickly react to this within a space of a minute, so we can go to the next paper. President Buhari in 2014, when APC was selling the form, or when APC sold the form for 27.5 million, criticized, said that the amount is too much for him, so he's going to borrow money to buy the form. Now, under his watch, it has not been sold for 100 million. Is there any rationale behind that?
Maybe the Buhari we know that made that comment has forgotten.
Okay.
By people who have made him see that statement here was an anti-party comment.
Okay.
He's living the reality, and that reality is against Nigeria's political development.
Okay, the reality and Nigerian development as far as cost of governance is concerned, we shall be discussing all of that in the parliament. But let's go back to the next paper before us, and that is This Day newspaper. Yes, Tuesday this morning has the following headlines. INEC proposes 1 million staff deployment for 2023 election. 1 million staff deployment. We have in this country 774 local governments. And INEC is deploying 1 million. How would that be rationed? That implied by that a local government may be getting just one staff. That's 7 of the riders up there, and the rider says if determined national must hold, declares schedule of activities fixed. These parties plan properly. CPVC don't air. Rather, we have NSA. We protect electoral body Nigerians in voting. So we can get that story started on Friday and continues on Friday of the day newspaper. We have neighbor Cameroon signs strategic military deal with Russia. Mr. D, what dignity to you? Nigeria's neighbor Cameroon signs strategic military deal with story on page 11.
I guess when it comes to national, we must accept that nations always look for self-preservation. But what I've seen years over the decades, countries that stay aligned are all better. Because today they are signing with Russia. Episode with Ukraine. What is the fate of Cameroon with the countries that battered them? African countries in particular, to stay as much as possible, stay non-aligned, so that we can, and then when the person is non-aligned, you can add, they could listen, but once you zero into one side, looking at it strategically, the decision.
Okay.
I doubt it strongly.
Okay, so but then you can get full details of that story right there on page 11 of This Day newspaper. Still on this day, Google WIOCC unveil open access subsea cable in Nigeria. Full details you can find right there. Women leader 100 naira presidential form meant to short on. You can hear that again. Is getting money banks to get involved in the election. Now, the serious ones, women leader can tell us. But the full details of that story you can find right there on page 5 of This Day newspaper. And of course, that's some okay, can't afford to just around, okay, can't afford to just around, okay. Of course, you can get full details of all of that story right there on page 5 of this day newspaper. So on this day, the big story there says Buhari military not doing enough to end insecurity despite logistics provided. So I hope provided any enough logistics for the military and they're not doing enough, Mr. Didi.
If the military is not doing enough, what is Buhari doing to the military?
Okay.
To deal with them or make them do enough? This is empty propaganda that will not sell. In fact, let us tell Buhari that this statement alone demarcates every APC candidate. The military that he is the chief of the is not enough, and he's not doing anything to the military. He's not dealing with those that are not doing the right thing. He continues to do nothing 7 years after. Then we should seriously doubt every APC presidential candidate coming up forward, because there is no guy than Buhari.
Now look at the rider where I have major concern. Fears situation may linger except citizens offer information. Then second, it says others release of kidnapped Kaduna train passengers. And finally, IG justifies police presence in Southeast, says attacks on officers no longer tolerated. Now let's take it one after the other.
Let's take that first one. It said
fears situation may linger except citizens offer information.
What has government done with the information that has been given before that was not used? You see, we are not in 1979. We are not living in 1965 when information was not available. We are living in where information runs at the speed of thought. As it is happening, somebody's doing out there. We have over time heard and seen and read that there is intelligence information. Even the train attack that happened in Kaduna, there was news report information that viewed that comment. Okay. Information is provided. Are people using it? We are even hearing of stories that before the military steps out, somebody from within tells them where they will go, how they will be, and these terrorists are able to surprise them, ambush them. So it means that the problem is not lack of information from the people. It is lack of proper use of the information. Somebody has to tell this to Buhari straight in the face. The second one, it says orders release of kidnapped. Are you giving an order? Are you in charge of the terrorists that you will order them to release? Are you ordering them to negotiate? Are you ordering them to work?
No,
about the IG saying that he's convincing us why there's police presence and all that.
Southeast.
Well, I am against the attacks of attack on police establishment. It does not help the Southeast. It does not help the government, governors. It does not help the citizens, because we have military presence everywhere. So those people that are attacking those as themselves, are they contributing to the well-being of their people? Now, but there is also the question: is that the same military presence in the north?
Good.
Is there the same military presence everywhere in the north? So if it is heavy on one side, then you raise questions.
Okay.
And you know that a lot of things will go in. I have so much to say about the police.
Okay. Here in Rivers State, a lot of officers were actually deployed to this part of the world. But every day, if you go through the page of the papers, listen to the news, you must hear one attack in Kaduna, Katsina State, Plateau State, Borno State, and we've not anything like deploying officers to that part of the world, just as you've just rightly mentioned. And talking about intelligence report from the people, from the citizens. The people of Borno State have been crying over time over attacks by the herdsmen. Nothing is done. The people in Kaduna State, Zamfara State, Plateau, and the rest have been crying of the attacks. Now, talking about